Materia Ture.
Mr Speaker, the Green Party will be supporting this legislation to Select Committee on its first reading. Not because we think that it does a good job, there are some things in it that are better than other things, but because it is at least a confession and an admission by government that rental housing in this country is in a state that is unacceptable, and there needs to be some kind of minimum standard. Because for many years now, and for many years the Green Party has been arguing very strongly for insulation and improved insulation standards, improved weather tightness, all of those things. For many years the government has simply refused to accept that there is a serious problem. That they've argued that it is an issue that is one between the tenants and the landlords and is borne out in the price of the accommodation. That people who own rental properties are just ordinary people trying to make a little bit of a buck, not professionals engaged in a business, and so therefore shouldn't have any additional burdens. Have argued that the reasons why children are hospitalised for health issues, respiratory illnesses related to cold, damp homes is really an issue for those families and for the poverty that those families face rather than an issue of housing. On and on, excuse after excuse after excuse. We have finally, after years of campaigning, after a very successful home insulation scheme developed by the Green Party, proposed with Labour, and then actually implemented alongside National, and a very successful Green Party initiative to have 300,000 New Zealand homes insulated. Before, of course, that scheme was then, two-thirds of the funding of that scheme was then taken by National, and so the scheme has not been able to deliver as it should be since then. But after years of being aware of the research that shows that a scheme like a home insulation scheme, comprehensive home insulation scheme, works, both to provide significant benefit back to the government coffers and to the health of New Zealanders, and the fact that for many years now there has been significant research on the quality of New Zealand housing, the poor quality of housing and its impacts on health, we finally have some kind of admission from government that something needs to be done. It is with extreme disappointment, though, that I read the bill that essentially does as little as is possible. This is the barest minimum standards for insulation that you can put in place beyond having no standard at all. I mean, to have legislation in the House that puts as the minimum standard for rental housing the 1978 standard, the 1978 standard for home insulation, knowing all of the information, the research that we have about the poor quality of New Zealand housing and the need to do something real, because if we don't, lives are lost. This government can only bring itself to put in place a 1978 standard. It is a miserable bill, Mr Speaker. It means that the 1 million adults who rent in this country and the 400,000 children who live in rental properties in this country are yet again being undermined by a national government who really isn't here for them at all. Those people who rent those properties have no face when it comes to National. National can't see them, they don't know their lives, they have no interest in the impact that the National Party decisions are having on their lives and the well-being of their kids. We've heard some of the stats already. 40,000 children hospitalised each year for respiratory illnesses related to cold, damp housing. 1,600 deaths in the winter in New Zealand directly related to cold, damp housing. We know the names of some of those people who die. Emilita Bourne, remember? Just last year? Emilita Bourne died because the house she was living in was so mouldy and cold and damp. Te Ao Marama Wenza, her kids continually getting sick because she still lived in a cold, damp and mouldy home. These names, these people are real. Their lives are valuable, and we should have a government that puts their lives and the lives of thousands and thousands of New Zealanders just like them at the forefront of their policy decision-making. And that would mean, if National did that, put Emilita Bourne at the forefront of their decision-making, put Te Ao Marama's children at the forefront of their decision-making, That would mean we would have a bill to discuss today that had a comprehensive warrant of fitness for rental properties that would demonstrably save lives. That would have, if in place then, saved Emilita Bourne's life. Would have, if in place then, protected Te Ao Marama's children from the hospitalisations and the illnesses that they suffered. But we don't have a government that puts children first. We have a government that puts industry first, that puts making money first, that puts anything and everything they can think of first above the needs of our kids. And as a result, our children will continue, even should this bill be passed in its current form, will continue to die from entirely preventable illnesses because they live in cold, damp rental homes. Mr. Speaker, we've looked at this legislation in some detail in the time that we've had. We agree with the smoke alarm proposal in it. These are all very practical. It's a very practical proposal. But so the failure to address seriously the insulation issue means that lives are still at risk. And it is very hard to understand why government would spend all this time and this money putting forward legislation that simply doesn't have any evidence that it will be effective. And so the opposite side of that, of course, is that effective legislation is not only advantageous in that lives will be saved, children who might otherwise die won't die, older New Zealanders who might otherwise die in the winter won't die. That in itself is a good thing and one of the reasons why we're here, to help prevent these kinds of preventable deaths. But there is a huge economic value in taking the best route, not the worst. And in the papers, sir, there is some great information provided by the Child Poverty Action Group, where they set out some of the economic benefits of taking real action to improve the quality of rental housing. They talk about over a 20-year period, sort of over the lifetime of a reasonable house, $450 million saved through safety benefits. That is the reduction of hazards that lead to injury and death that are then a huge cost on both the health system and on ACC. A comprehensive warrant of fitness for rental properties would save New Zealand, the taxpayer, $450 million in safety benefits. That's nearly $500 million. A comprehensive warrant of fitness for rental properties would save some $420 million in health benefits for New Zealanders. Health benefits meaning reduced costs on the health system, and a health system that is already creaking under the weight, because we wouldn't have the 40,000 hospitalisations for children. We wouldn't have families continually, thank you Mr Speaker, continually having to take their kids, bear the cost of continually having to take their kids to hospital and to the doctor, and therefore all of the subsequent economic costs that those families bear. $420 million could be saved to the New Zealand taxpayer with a comprehensive warrant of fitness, and that's just in health benefits. Just those two elements alone, the safety benefits and the health benefits, means that New Zealand could save $1 billion over that 20-year period. $1 billion and countless lives. Countless lives. So, sir, I've appreciated the passion and fury with which some of the debate has been had this afternoon, but so my own feelings are just deep, deep disappointment. Deep disappointment in this government for its failure to take the lives of children and New Zealanders seriously. Thank you, Mr Speaker.